Welcome to Loop City. We're five guys who love hoops, entertainment, and culture. I'm Pete Toll. Joining me is DJ Gonzo Star and Coach Matt. This episode, we're talking our favorite rookie and sophomore standouts: the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors, the Brooklyn Nets, and of course, Ben Simmons. Diving into NBA Week 2, getting right into it. We are going to start with the Los Angeles Lakers. Troubling start for the Lakers so far this season, 0-5. Um, I don't know what to make of this season, but Gonzo, I'm going to go to you first. What do you make of this Lakers season? What's going wrong for them?
Everything. Uh, Anthony Davis is now officially turned into his alter ego street clothes again. Uh, uh, Russell Westbrook can't throw a rock in the ocean. Neither can LeBron from three. Anthony Davis can't really throw a rock throw a rock into the ocean from three. They don't have a lot of good bench help. It's just a bad situation for the Lakers, man. I think they did a terrible job in the off season recruiting talent to come to LA. But I don't think it's the fact that they can't recruit. They couldn't recruit. I think this is just one of those things. This is the repercussion of LeBron James ran organizations. You get a championship or you get very deep in the playoffs, but in the end, the team is decimated, and you are going to shortly be going back into a rebuild again.
Matt, you got any thoughts on what your eye test is telling you?
Uh, the biggest thing I think is just they cannot shoot. I know it's what we're 5 games in. I think they're on 5 now.
Mm-hmm.
They can't shoot. They can't make open shots. They're generating open looks. They can't hit them. And they've actually kind of been lucky. I saw a stat the other day where teams are like the amount of open shots that teams have had against them, but haven't made them at the level they should. So it's actually making the Lakers defense look better than it actually is. Because one of the guys I follow on Twitter, uh, Jason Maples, he was like he's been saying this defense just doesn't look right. I can't, and then he saw the stat and it's like he's like I knew something was off. It just didn't look right.
But what's crazy is they're second in defensive rating.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason teams aren't making open shots against them.
So, like, the numbers are a little inflated because, like, Anthony Davis with his back issues is not protecting the rim. Like, they kind of expected, like, you can kind of be the guy that is the backstopper, kind of, sort of, on offense. We can run the offense through you. LeBron, you can kind of be the complementary piece that gets everybody involved. Well, LeBron can't get everybody involved when you got guys clanking constantly from three on the outside, no matter how many open looks you get. Troy Brown Jr. coming back from injury has played in 3 out of the 5 games, is one of their better shooters, but he's only shooting 36% from three. Their main complementary guys, like Lonnie Walker, is getting most of his scoring slashing, kind of trying to get to the free throw lines, scoring off of cuts and dunks and things like that. It's rough because now Westbrook's, coming off the bench. So it's like, is that going to be the long-term answer for them? And what does that do for the value going forward? Yes, obviously we know they want to get off the Westbrook contract, but they don't want to mortgage their future as far as picks in 2027 and 2029. But come trade deadline, are you trading Russell Westbrook for like a bench fringe, rotation player in a second rounder at this point? Because I don't think you get a first rounder or anything like that. So it's kind of like your best offer may be that end of bench guy just to kind of get off of him. And that's kind of sad because Westbrook's value next year, he may not even be in the NBA at this point, which you go from MVP, 6 years ago to now, potentially being out of the league. That's a harsh fall. And not everything has been Westbrook's fault because you have to blame the front office on the way that they constructed this roster and their short-sighted trades and transactions. You go to get Anthony Davis. Yeah, you could say you won a chip. It was in the bubble. Everybody got 4 months off. So basically you got a clean start to the season. if Anthony Davis had to play all the way through, I don't believe he would have stayed healthy enough to get to the finals, just based on recent track record. So you traded pieces like Ingram, who's been flourishing in New Orleans. Lonzo, before injury, was flourishing in New Orleans and a little bit in Chicago. And then Josh Hart has been playing a key role as a starter on Portland. So now you're about to watch the Pelicans potentially take your pick and skyrocket into the Wembanyama sweepstakes. What if they got that number one pick? We talked about it before, Matt. Like, what if they got that? They somehow landed the luck of getting that first pick. The Lakers have to watch that.
Yeah, because they made the right decisions. That's how you run an organ. You know what? For all the stuff we've said about Griff in New Orleans, I mean, he's redeemed himself from that horrible start. Like he's turned that thing around, and like they're a legitimate contender to get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, I'm gonna stick with you. Speaking of well-run organizations and just kind of how they churn out talent, we've got the Golden State Warriors. They've kind of gone a little bit different direction this year. Yes, they're first in points per game, but their defense is slid, to say the least. They're committing to lowering the minutes of Curry, Clay, Draymond, playing some of the younger guys like Moody, Jordan Poole, of course. But the question mark there is Jonathan Kuminga is very frustrated that he hasn't been playing enough. And it's almost wondering, do the Warriors have too many guys that they're trying to integrate in while still trying to remain relevant? What do you think?
I don't know if it's that they have too many guys that they want to integrate because the talent is there. You know, you Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman and obviously Poole, you know, and then the youngster who hasn't played much, Patrick Baldwin.
Yep.
And I know it looks like clearly when you look at some of the guys they let go, you know, Otto Porter, guys like that. I think this was set up, you know, we're gonna develop the young guys this year. And that's what it looks like to me. And I think that's also partly why the defensive numbers are down, because young guys, it takes longer. Wiseman didn't play at all last year, so he's getting himself acclimated to the system. And then obviously the Draymond Green stuff, is it having an effect? Is it not? I don't want to say it is because I don't know. But even Draymond Green hasn't looked fully locked in defensively like he normally does. I just think this. I mean, but you have to understand a lot. You know, their main guys like have basically go to the NBA Finals almost every year. They're like I'm not worried about them. I think they will figure it out. But it is a little concerning, you know. But I think they will figure it out because last year, I think at the end of the season, I think they still finished number one overall in defense. And this year, they're what, 22nd, something like that in defense. Yeah, they're in the bottom third of the NBA. Is it 22nd? A couple
points per game, 27th, 20th in defensive rating.
Okay, yeah, it was 22nd a few days, you know. But yeah, I think they're going to improve on that. This kind of reminds me of. What was the year? I think their defensive rating was kind of not on the great side, but they still were pretty good. Got all the way to the final still. Was that the last year Durant was there, or was it his second year where they
2019, 2020?
Oh, that was I thought there was a year they went to the finals. The defensive rating wasn't great. One of those years they went. I don't remember what year it was. It was kind of like that thing. Remember with the Lakers, like in 2002?
I mean, they were pretty decent.
Yeah.
2016, 2017. 2017, 2018, they were 11th. They were second in 2016, 2017.
That's what it was. I think 17, 18, they were 11th. So they weren't as good as that's what it kind of
18, like 19th, they were 13th.
Yeah. See, the 2 years in a row, but they still get to the finals. So I think they'll figure it out. I don't think they're going to finish 20th. They're just, and young guys, it takes time. Defensively is always typically what comes last. The offense comes first, then they learn the defense and how to defend at an NBA level. So I'm not too concerned. I don't think it's panic time yet. And I said last week it wasn't time to panic with the Lakers. It's panic time now. Now it's panic time. I looked at their schedule. They may start out like 0-12.
Yeah, it's tough going forward. The Jazz is like, even though they've been winning, they've got some guys out with health and safety stuff, like some non-COVID illnesses. So bits and pieces are kind of in and out. Yeah, Walker Kessler's out. Like, different guys are kind of in and out of the lineup, so that might benefit the Lakers some. But Gonzo, want to go to you. specifically with Klay Thompson. Charles Barkley makes the comment that more or less Klay's not the same Klay anymore, and it kind of hurt Klay's feelings. What's your thoughts on what Klay Thompson's doing so far this season? Do you think he can kind of get a spark once he's kind of back into rhythm from injury?
Absolutely. I mean, when you're coming off the type of injury that Klay came off of, you don't usually come back like right away. You give it like 18 months, 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be back in shape. And the more he plays, the more he'll get better. We're not even an all-star break, and we like questioning the man's. Not even saying we are, but I'm saying like people are questioning if he'll ever be the same again. I mean, give him an all-star break. Look, he came back last year rusty and averaged 17 points a game, if I'm not mistaken. 17 plus points a game. Give him an opportunity. He's a champion. He's one of not only is he one of the best shooters of all time, he's a great defender as well. Give him some time. I mean, I think he's earned his stripes enough for us to trust him and just see where he goes from there.
Gotcha. Speaking of trust, let's jump in. I'm going to stay with you, Gonzo. Let's stay with the Brooklyn Nets. Trust. That's a big word when it comes to the Brooklyn Nets organization. Obviously, Kyrie, KD over the summer, all that stuff. They're trusting Ben Simmons to return to form. What's going wrong that you've seen with Brooklyn so far?
What's going wrong with Brooklyn? First problem with Brooklyn, I'm going to go to the top with this one, is Steve Nash. I don't think he's the coach that they need in order to push them over the hump. That's number one. Number two is definitely Ben Simmons. The guy won't shoot. He has almost as many points as he does fouls. That's ridiculous in the amount of games he's played. He won't shoot. It's not the fact that he can't. We don't even know if he can or not because he won't take the opportunities. He's pulling the same thing that he's done in Philadelphia. And everybody says it's a mental issue. I think he's playing a game because he wants his way out of there. He's trying to get to that West Coast. Third is Kyrie and the off-the-court issues. And I'm one of those people, I believe in freedom of speech. I don't believe in labeling anybody racist, prejudice, anti-Semitic. I don't think you've been doing that until you first get all the facts and understand where a person is coming from. But I am a person I'm into doing my job. And when I do my job, I usually keep politics out of that. I don't think that's a place for that. Just do your job and go to work. Now, once your career is over, you can say all the things you want because your career is over. But right now, when you're playing, you're distracting. You're bringing distractions to your teammates, your coaching staff, and you're bringing distractions even into your family at this point. Make the money, take care of your family, and once you're out of the basketball, you can do all the crazy stuff, political stuff, whatever you want to do afterwards. This is just not the time right now. Right now, you're trying to build some camaraderie and build some chemistry with your teammates and coaching staff, especially since you're one of those players that has only played 47% of your regular season games of your career. You got to chill, Kyrie. Kyrie has to chill right now. It's not the time for that. They have to stay focused. I can't say anything bad about Kevin Durant. But I do say let's hold off on the negative comments with them until they get Joe Harris back at full strength and Seth Curry.
Well, Seth Curry came back tonight. So far, obviously, major, with ankle issues and stuff like that. He has 6 assists, but he's 0 for 5 from the floor. Joe Harris is finally getting back into rhythm. But the Nets defense, to me, is what's really hurting them. Not enough scoring from the other guys. Like Kyrie gets his, Durant gets his. Where's the rest of the scoring for this team? They're down right now. As we're recording this live, they're down 103-95 in the fourth quarter to the Indiana Pacers. Matt.
Yes.
You have been the Ben Simmons defender out of our group kind of for the last couple of years. So what's your thoughts on Ben Simmons? Is it mental? Is it physical, mental? What's going on?
I mean, it could be a combination of both. I'm not going to be the one to speculate. Does he have is he faking it with the mental stuff? That's not for me to decide. I don't, mental, the mental stuff is a serious thing. So I don't want to speculate there. But I think a lot of the problems are he hasn't played in almost before going into the season like a year and a half. He didn't play
Basically.
for. Yeah, and I think he's just getting his legs, he's getting his feet under him. And where you can really see it is at the defensive end. As you said with the Nets, been very good defensively, and we saw it. Luka was targeting him defensively.
Yeah.
The other
Because he
night.
can't. He's almost hesitant. Obviously, on offense, we know to shoot, but it's almost like is his movement, like side to side movement, a little hesitant?
Well, it might be too, because, and I know he did have that one great defensive possession at the end of the game of regulation on Luka where he locked him down. Luka couldn't get shit on him. It's like, that's the Ben Simmons we want to see. But also then on the one where Durant gets the dunk to send it to overtime. Simmons, the old Simmons, his first couple years in Philly, he would have attacked that rim and got the and one. He won't even do that now. And that's where maybe the mental stuff comes in. He's in his own head too. Like he's become a head case with that kind of stuff. He's just in his own head. But the defense really is the problem, Pete. And Richard Jefferson and Sarah Kustok, they call the games with Ian Eagle on the Yes Network there in Brooklyn, and they had mentioned third quarters because we've seen some games where the Nets look pretty good in the first half. They come out and the energy's just not there in the third quarter.
So that means tuning out the coach basically in the locker room.
Now,
and just not
their energy was good against Dallas in the third quarter. I have to give them that, but that's just that's one game. And you're clearly seeing here what was the third quarter score in that Pacers? Do you have it? Can you look at the can you and that'll give us an idea what the third quarter looks like there.
Yeah, I just think overall, like, it's just a combination of, they kind of tuning out at this point, Steve Nash, like plain and simple. That's kind of where I don't have it broken down by quarter.
We'll be able to see it. We'll be able to see it at the end of the game.
Yeah. Let's see.
I'm just interested in what it would look like because that's where they've had their problems in some of these games. Has been that third quarter.
No, it won't break it down on here.
It's not. It's not. No big deal. No big deal. But yeah, I think that's been their issue. But I'm actually still with Gons. It's not. We can't judge them yet because, as he said, Harris hasn't played. He's kind of in and out of the lineup. Seth Curry just came back tonight. Then also TJ Warren. Their offense will be fine. I think ultimately they will be a playoff team. They're not going to miss the playoffs, I don't think.
29-28 in the third quarter. So they both tied in the first quarter, 26. Indiana went up. They had 37 points to Brooklyn's 36 in the second. 29-28 Indiana in the third, and in the fourth quarter, Indiana's taking it 16-9. Right now, it's 108-99 Indiana, and there's about 6.5 minutes left.
Yeah, so it looks like it's really turning into like a second half thing for the Brooklyn Nets where they just. But I want to say one thing because I know when we did our preview, we've been hard on Nick Claxton. I think he kind of has been a bright spot for them. He's been a lot better than I thought. Yes, I know he clanked a corner three off the side of the backboard. At least he took the shot though, unlike Ben Simmons.
Right.
I think he's been pretty good for them though. I like what he's done.
The biggest thing I think for the Nets is they've got to figure out what they're going to do with their starting lineup. Like I like Royce O'Neal as a complementary piece, and you kind of have to have in there as a secondary defender if Simmons isn't able to defend at his normal level. But he hurts them so much offensively when you have shooters like Curry and Harris that can help stress the defense, kind of take some areas of defenders being there for like Kyrie to drive in or Durant to get in there in the mid range, even Claxton for lobs and stuff. It kind of clogs that area because they're not going to defend Ben Simmons. So then it's kind of like if Royce O'Neal is not shooting at a high clip or able to stretch the floor to three, at least, considerably, then it makes it a little difficult. So they'll have to figure out, if they're going to keep Simmons kind of as a de facto point guard and then have Harris or Curry join the lineup. I ultimately think you put Kyrie at the point guard and Simmons moves to the power forward. Just stick him in the dunker spot strictly and leave it at that. But that's just me. What my thoughts is. So, yeah. So on to a bright spot. Looking at the rookies, we'll talk a little bit of the sophomores as well. Some guys that stood out to us, but more so the rookies. Gonzo, I'm going to go to you first. What are some rookies that have kind of impressed so far? Give me the rookie that's impressed you the most, and one that surprised you that you maybe didn't know much about, or that's just really caught your eye.
Well, the first person is Ben Mathurin for the Indiana Pacers. He's averaging 19 points, I think 19 points a game, 4.5 rebounds, 3 assists. He's shooting 44% from field goals, 37% from three. And he's a bench player. He's coming off the bench, and he's playing like he's a starter. He's had a couple of rough games, the last couple of games, but overall he's done a phenomenal job in the backup role coming off the bench. To me, honestly, he looks like as if he should be starting over Chris Duarte. Chris Duarte looks more like the backup player right now, and Ben Mathurin looks more like the seasoned veteran. Um, it's quite a few rookies this year that kind of caught my eye. Sharp from Portland, Braun from Denver, Paolo Banchero. He's fun. He's been phenomenal. I mean, it's so many guys I can name. Keegan Murray, he came back and went right into the lineup, and I mean, he plays like a seasoned veteran. This is one of those classes where they've been sneaky good, and it kind of went under the radar. I didn't expect this many rookies to be impactful already in the NBA.
Yeah, Matt. What about you? Anybody that's standing out?
Obviously, Paolo Banchero has been fantastic. I mean, what are we at? 6 games in a row now, 20 points or more. And if you look, the field goal percentage is really coming up. He's starting to make more threes. Defensively, he's getting some blocks here and there. But the guy I want to talk about is Jalen Duren, because you look at the numbers, he's about 8 points a game, the 6 rebounds, the block and a half, but he's doing it in like 17 minutes a game. And he was a guy I know we've all discussed. Like, we weren't sure, is he going to have to be a guy that goes to the G League, right? And get some reps down in the G League so they can bring him back up. Kind of like what New Orleans did with Trey Murphy III last year, and we see how that's paid off. But no, Durham does not need to go in the G League. I'm going to say this. He needs to be in the starting lineup. This guy is going to be a monster. And when I was watching the game last night, I was looking at him shoot his free throws, and I know he's got issues at the line. He shoots a good ball. The form is pretty good. I like it. I think there's some potential there as a shooter for him. We already know he's a beast. Like, he's an athletic freak. He's going to guard, protect the rim, rebound. He can really pass too. I think he's a very underrated passer. But he's the guy that's really stuck out to me. And part of it too, they basically got him for nothing.
Yeah.
Right? They got him for nothing.
Right.
The Hornets essentially gave him away. And the one position of need for the Hornets was the big man position, and you give him away. Shout out to Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah, while Mark Williams is on the team and doesn't even sniff the rotation, because Nick Richards has been phenomenal for them. Rookies out of the guys that you haven't named that have because a couple that you guys have named, obviously Mathurin, Banchero, like those guys are obvious ones to me that are some of my favorites. But I'm going to go Jaden Ivey, splitting time with Cade Cunningham as far as on the ball, off the ball, both can kind of handle it. Ivey's got that change of pace, shooting 40% from 3, 4.5 assists basically a game, 15 points a game. He just kind of being able to get into the lane and score, can shoot it outside. Once he gets even more, the speed of the game slows down for him. I think it's going to be even better. Cade Cunningham's getting into a rhythm now after a slow start. Detroit's going to be, obviously, you said Darren, they're going to be scary in the next couple of years if they keep developing. Tari Eason with Houston's another one. Obviously, the numbers don't pop off the screen as far as 20 points a game or anything like that, but 7 points a game, 6 rebounds in only 18 and a half minutes. Looking really good as far as just being an intangible guy you can plug in at backup power forward now. I think eventually could shift to small forward and start once they figure out Eric Gordon and move forward with him. 2 guys in Memphis, David Roddy and Jake LaRavia, are getting playing time, and that's because of the injuries. Dylan Brooks was out a little bit. Zaire Williams is out for now 6 to 8 weeks. And then, of course, you got Jaren Jackson Jr., so they're able to split wing minutes and power forward minutes, however you kind of want to piece their minutes together. But LaRavia, I wasn't quite sure once I saw him in Summer League. I was like, he's okay. But he's really popped off a little bit more than Roddy to me. LaRavia able to shoot well from 3, can stretch the floor in a small ball 4 role as well as on a wing role as well. So Memphis always does pretty well with their draft picks, I think.
Hey, Pete, LaRavia
yeah.
has some sneaky athleticism too.
A little bit, yeah.
He has some
Get some cuts
sneaky
to the basket.
athleticism. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to round out my last guy. He's down now with illness, but Walker Kessler, I think, could be a piece for Utah protecting the rim. In high school, he could stretch the floor. He didn't do it much in college. I wonder if they'll develop over time, develop him out to be able to stretch the floor a little bit, not like a 3 or 4 fours, threes a game, but maybe 1 or 2 a game just to keep the defenses honest as far as stretching the floor over time, being able to shoot that corner 3, things like that. I think he's going to be sneaky good for them. But Matt, I'm going to go to you first on sophomore players. Obviously, I touched on Cade Cunningham. Anything else you want to touch on Cade?
I'm going to
he's
go
your
to Cade
guy.
because I want to leave Jalen Green for Gonzo.
Okay.
And we know last week I got into Cade's ass. Maybe he was one of the people who saw what I said because he's been going off the last couple games. He's starting to shoot it well. He's starting to look comfortable. And the one thing that I like, the first game that he goes off, Jaden Ivey is out of the lineup because of flu-like symptoms, I guess. It's an illness, flu-like symptoms, I guess is what it was. And he has a good game, the 26 points, the 8 assists or whatever and all that. But then last night, Ivy comes back, and Cade goes off again for like 36. The field goal percentage is coming up. So I'm not worried about Cade. He's finally looking like the guy I thought he would be, which is the monster that he is. That's my guy. I'm going to leave for the second-year players. I'm going Cade Cunningham. He's starting to look fantastic. He's starting to now make me look good again. I don't look like the asshole that I looked like the first 4 games of the season.
Okay. Gonzo, do you have any sophomores that you have been impressed by?
Jalen Green. I like the fact that he seemed to be getting more aggressive, especially like late in the games. I don't particularly care for his shot selection at times, but I understand he's shooting and he's just building confidence, and eventually those shots will fall the more he continues just to play his game. It's definitely Jalen Green, man. I think he could be a 20 point game scorer, 20 plus point game scorer. I think he could be a potential all-star, and I think he's a great piece for the Houston Rockets to build around. And I'm glad they got the addition of Jabari Smith. They got him a big man who can score.
Okay. Matt, I can't believe you didn't name this guy. I got to go with him. Trey Murphy of the New Orleans Pelicans. He's up to 31 points or minutes a game. I wish he was up to 31 points. 31 minutes a game, 15 points. Has really been shooting the 3 ball well. 5 attempts per game, basically 62% from 3. he's basically their sixth man, has really been electric all over the floor. He can do more than shoot threes because he can slash to the basket if he needs to a little bit. It's kind of sneaky cutter. I really, really like Trey Murphy. Trey Mann also for Oklahoma City has really gotten a role with Giddey kind of being down with injury. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was down previously with an injury. Mann looks a lot more under control this year as far as picking his spots to score. A little bit better passing. He's more of a two guard than a point guard. So I don't lean into, he has to have 5 or 6 assists necessarily, but just controlling the tempo, making good reads and stuff like that's what I expect. Another good year out of Franz Wagner in Orlando. A good complementary piece with Banchero and Wendell Carter, especially with all the injuries to the guards. Wagner and Banchero both can handle the ball in spots and kind of bring it up the floor. So I like that versatility. And then I want to touch on one guy that's kind of taken a backseat, and I don't know if it's the offense or he's just struggling. Davion Mitchell for Sacramento has not looked good. He's shot it poorly, and then he also just doesn't look great in the sense that just confidence just isn't there. I would say, and that's tough because obviously his defense, they named him off night for a reason. I wonder not getting as many minutes because he went from 28 minutes a game last year down to 17 this year under Mike Brown. I wonder if that's kind of a difference in trying to get into a rhythm, things like that. I hope he can turn it around because I like Sacramento as a ball club, even though I had them in the play-in, making the play-in. They struggled to start the season, but we'll see what happens.
Hey, we got to touch on Scotty Barnes as well.
Yeah.
With what he's doing with that Toronto team, he's really fitting in nicely with Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of weren't sure, Scotty Barnes with what he can do offensively, his versatility. We know what he can do defensively, but I think he's been really good for them. Kind of that, what would I say, like a connector type piece for them. Like it just works with him on the floor.
Yeah, it's weird because he can essentially start at power forward and be your backup point guard running the offense in a sense. So he's able to do versatile things on both sides of the ball. And it really kind of helps because, with Toronto, they do have, Van Fleet that can shoot it outside off the ball, obviously Trent Jr. So Scotty Barnes being able to get into the defense and then kicking it out to some of those guys is definitely an asset to have for sure. So I want to dive into putting you on game. That's our end of the show segment that we do every week. We try to touch on something because we are a podcast that isn't just hoops. We talk entertainment and culture, usually more on the entertainment side, as it's going to be this week. Matt and I specifically both watched a movie on HBO Max. It's out now. It's called Barbarian. It's directed by Zach Krieger. It stars Georgiana Campbell, Bill Scarsdale, who everybody knows as Pennywise from the remake of the It movies, and then Justin Long, who was in Dodgeball and the romantic movie with Drew Barrymore. I forgot.
And he was in the fourth Die Hard movie.
Yeah, and he was in the what is it? Die Hard, Live Free or Die Hard.
Yes.
What was that one? But Matt, go ahead and tell everybody the plot of the movie, and then we'll give our scores.
So this young lady, she's in town in Detroit for, I guess she's doing these interviews or whatever. She stays at this Airbnb, I believe, essentially. Mm-hmm. And it's raining. She walks up, she puts the code in, she opens the box, and there's no key there, right? So she, and essentially the character Bill Skarsgård is playing. He opens the door. There was a mistake in the booking, and so they both get booked there. She, so they end up staying there. He takes the couch, she takes the bed, and I like what they did with that whole thing. They built there's some tension there that was really cool how they did it. But there's some sinister stuff going on in this house, because she goes down to the basement. She finds this room, boom, things happen. Then it's kind of, what's cool is it's kind of like two stories in one, because that happens, and then boom, you switch over to Justin Long's character. I think he's in California at the time. He's talking to his agent. He's got these harassment allegations. Of course, he's denying it. He owns the Airbnb that they were staying at, so he ends up going there to check it out. All the stuff comes together. Some crazy shit is really going on. It's a good watch. I think it's enjoyable. I think if you like horror movies, I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I definitely give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. I enjoyed it definitely for a late night horror movie. It's not ultimately gory or anything like that. It doesn't have a plot that you're just like, wait, what? Like it makes sense once you go through the movie. But what score would you give it, Matt?
I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. With the gore, there were a couple things.
Yeah, but it wasn't too bad.
Gore. No, it was nothing crazy, nothing over the top. Because I texted Mike yesterday, said, is it gory? I'm like, maybe a couple scenes, but nothing too crazy.
Yeah, not too bad.
Yeah, it's nothing. This is not Terrifier.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
This is not Terrifier.
Definitely not. Speaking of terrifying, I'm going to close out on this subject. We didn't talk about it before the show, but I did want to touch on it at least to kind of bring light and hope that everything works out. Josh Primo of the San Antonio Spurs, for anybody that did not see, he was released from the Spurs organization last night. Everybody went wild on what the allegation could be because, basically you don't release a guy that you drafted, 12th overall.
Yeah, and they just extended him 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, and they extended him. Well, we got further reports today that he essentially, I guess, what do you want to say? He's been going balls out.
He was exposing himself.
Yeah, he's been going balls out, literally, to some female employees as well as some hotel employees. I've heard another version of the story as well, in not more than one hotel that he's hit some of the maids with or room service, whatever it is, with that same thing. So he put out the statement that, he's trying to get his mental health in order, things like that. So obviously he's a talented guard. We wish him all the best. We hope that maybe he can get things together and figure out maybe counseling or something that's going to help his trauma that he apparently received at a younger age that's kind of now reemerged later in life. So wishing him the best. Hopefully he can get his career.
And there's no excuses for what he did. He absolutely deserves to be punished.
Yes, he should be punished. I want to thank you for saying that, Matt. Want to make that clear. We don't support what he did, but we do want him to get the proper help. Unfortunately, those people that were he exposed himself to, hopefully, there's no long-lasting damage to them as well. But that closes us out for this episode of the Loop City podcast. Please make sure that you like and subscribe if you're watching us now on YouTube. We're going to try to go back to these live shows as much as possible if we can. We're also on all streaming audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Anchor, and more. Make sure you're subscribed there as well. Leave us a 5-star review. Lastly, we do have an Instagram and a TikTok account. Trying to post small clips of the shows before we release them in full. So make sure you're subscribed there as well. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We are Loop City.